Hey, welcome to Caspio Live, to our latest episode. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Before I begin with today's content, just let me know in the chat window. Just a quick housekeeping item. Hey, Josh, good to go. Excellent, thank you. Hey, King Capo, loud and clear. Welcome back. Sound good? All right, excellent. So let's go ahead and begin. We do, again, have a lot of ground to cover today since we're building a application ground up. In today's use case, we're going to be building a mini legal CRM or CRM for law firms where we can have attorneys logging in and be able to manage clients, manage cases, and also be able to manage documents for each case, which will have a two-tier one-to-many relationship. One client can have many cases and one case can have many documents. As always, I like to give you a live demo of what we're going to be creating. So let's go through that very quickly, and then we're going to go into Caspio and begin developing our application today. Also, I appreciate your attendance, so welcome back, many of you. So thanks for coming back to the live stream. So let's go ahead and take a look at the live example. I am logged in as the attorney at the moment, and we have the ability to look for clients, filter some data. My sample data only contains 3 different clients. If I go into the details for each one of these clients, I can see the client details where I can update the information, and I can also see all the cases that are associated with that specific client. At the same time, I can also create a new case here at the very top. I've made the ability to add a new case in 2 different methods. One is directly inside the report using inline insert from top, and I also have a submission form where I can create a new case using a form. So you have 2 different approaches. Of course, there are many different ways to set this up. I can also create a button up here that says new case. That can open up a modal pop-up, or we can go to a new page where we see a form, and from there I can add a case for that specific client. So from here I can go into the details of this specific case. I can also expand the description if I wanted to read that. Now I realize that I can also use list view as opposed to tabular just to make the long text easier to read. And then if I wanted to see the documents, I can click on that link and that'll bring up all the documents pertaining to that specific case. I can also insert a document from the top, but I also made it possible to add a document using a submission form. So now that's for the clients. I can also create a new client. So if it's a brand new client, I can enter that information, and as soon as I hit submit, I will be able to see that newly added client in my report. I can add a new case. So directly from here, I can add a case number, case title, description. I can say what type of case it's going to be, if it's civil litigation, if it's corporate law. We have a few other options here in the dropdown. I can select the client, and I can also select the attorney that's going to be responsible for handling that case. So once the case is added, of course, you can go back to the list of clients. And if you're looking for that specific case, maybe for Jenna Smith, I will be able to find that case that I just added. And last but not least, we have add document. So from here, I can select the case that I'm working on. I can create the document name, description, upload date, and the file attachment. And you can, of course, have many file attachments for each case. Again, I'm adding the document directly using a submission form here, but if I go into my client's details, let's say for Morris Doe, and then we go to view documents, I can also insert the document directly from the tabular report. There are many different ways to go about, adding data, looking at data in Caspio. This is just a simple standard features way to do so. And again, I always like to mention this for anybody who's new to these live streams. Please don't be turned off by the aesthetics and the look and feel. I can make this look much better, but because we're pressed for time and because I have other responsibilities at Caspio, I don't have a great deal of time to make these applications look really polished and nice. But if you have attended some of my previous live streams, you'll know that we have the ability to make applications look extremely well polished and nice and eye-appealing to the end user. Okay, so just tune into some of my previous live streams and you'll see that we've covered off HTML, CSS, styling in terms of embellishing and making applications look much nicer. All right, so that's the application we're going to be building today. So let's go into Caspio. Before I go into Caspio, you can see I have my web pages already set up where we're going to we'll be embedding our data pages into. So then in Caspio, we'll first go over tables. We don't build the tables because that will take a long time. Tables, inputting all the fields and data types, a very tedious process. That's why ahead of time, I've already set up my tables, but I always go through each table so that you can understand what fields are included in terms of primary keys, foreign keys, and how our tables are related. The first table, we have our attorneys. Okay, click on design. These are my fields. We have the attorney ID, that's the primary key, and you have all the information pertaining to your attorney. Okay, whatever information you want to have, maybe what area they specialize in. I have my password. And in today's application, we only have one user role, just attorneys. Okay, but you could expand upon that if you wanted to have different types of roles. Maybe you want to have a courts table. Maybe they need to log in and be able to view some of the case information as well. In my example, this is just a mini CRM for attorneys to be able to log in, input client information, associated cases, and documents for each client. That's the extent what we're going to be creating today. And inside my attorneys table, I only have John Doe as my sample attorney. Let's go to our second table, which is cases. Well, actually, let's go over clients first. So we're going to click on design. So this is the client table. Again, we have the primary key, client ID, and all the information you want to add for each one of your clients. Then we have the cases table. And inside the cases table, you will see two foreign keys. First, we have the primary key for case ID. We have case number, title, description, case type. This is what lists the corporate law, what else we had? I don't know, immigration and a few other case types. We have the case status, if it's going to be a new case, pending, or completed. And then we have the client ID and the attorney ID. So when the attorney adds the case, we want to be able to stamp the attorney's ID so that we know which attorney is handling that case. And client ID, of course, we need to have because we need to associate our cases back to our clients. Right? So one-to-many. One client can have many cases, so we always want to stamp the client ID inside our table. And we have the creation date, when we created that case, and we have the last updated date and time when we last updated that case. Let's go over our documents table next. Inside my documents table, we have the primary key, document ID. We have the case ID, which is linking back to our cases. Again, just like the clients give many cases, one case can have many documents. So two-tier, one-to-many relationship. We have document name, description, uploaded by, which will be we'll be stamping attorney's ID as uploaded by because we want to know which attorney uploaded the document, uploaded date, and the attachment itself. Okay. So it can be any document, pertaining to that case. So those are my tables. Actually, there's one more table, which is my simple lookup table. That lists all the case types, okay, which we have civil litigation, family law, real estate, immigration, corporate law, IP for intellectual property, and so forth. Now let's go into authentications. Because I only have one user role that's logging in, attorneys, I only have the authentication set up. If I had multiple roles, multiple types of attorneys, or maybe we have an admin level user or some other type of user, then I will create my views to filter out based on the role field. But again, this is just for attorneys to log in, and they all have the same level of access, meaning same permissions, same privileges. So I only created one authentication that's giving access to our attorneys. And I built this authentication based on the table. Okay. Again, if you have multiple roles and you separate the roles using the view, then your authentication is going to be based on the view, not the actual table. Right? And we talked about that previously as well. So now let's jump into data pages and let's go ahead and build out this entire application. So in my example here, why don't we begin? I always like to begin with an input form because I want to be able to add some sample data to the database. So why don't we start by creating a new client? So we will build the data page, and let's go with the submission form. Hit next. That's based off of the client's table because we're inputting data into our client's table. So let's call this create new client. I'll go with the style called blue, localization English, and restrict access to our attorneys. Click next. We will need all of our fields on the form. Some of these are grayed out. Hopefully by now everyone knows that the client ID is grayed out. That doesn't need to be in our submission form because that's automatically generated in the table. And the full name is a formula data type. It concatenates the first and last name together into its own field so that we can create the first and last name in its separate column. But the rest of these fields will definitely need our form. So we have first name. You could modify the label, create some spacing there. Maybe that's a required field. Last name, same thing, required field. And just go through each one of your fields, make the modifications that you need to. And then once you're finished, you can go ahead and just click finish to save. And that's how easy it is to build a submission form. And now you can deploy that form by grabbing the embed code. If you have a website where you plan on embedding that form, just keep in mind that Caspio is compatible with just about any content management system available today. So if you're using WordPress, Webflow, GoDaddy, Weebly, you will be able to embed this code into your site. Okay, it's very simple. Just copy, paste, embed. It's just like embedding a YouTube video. Now, personally, I like to use HTML pages, local HTML pages, and I use WinSCP to publish that in our server that Caspio provides us. So that's what I'll be using in my live stream. That's what I've been using in my live stream. So I have a page called Manage Clients. I will simply just paste my Caspio code that I just copied, save that document, and then publish that page. Let me bring WinSCP to the middle. Let's reload. So this is my directory called LCM Live. LCM stands for legal case management, and live I usually use for my live demos. And then Manage Clients page, where I just saved my data page into this page called Manage Clients. I will move that, make it live. So all I'm doing is moving my local file. This is stored in my local computer, my folder, and these are my files that exist in this URL called SumApp, which is provided by Caspio for us to demo and showcase how some of these applications can be embedded. So now that I move this page live, I can go to that page, refresh it, and I will be able to see that login screen because that data page is authenticated. Okay, so if we go back to that data page that I just created, actually, sorry about that. I'm not supposed to put that under Manage Clients. That needs to be under New Client. So I made a mistake there. Give me a second. Let's remove it from that page called Manage Clients. We'll rename that back to DP, New Client. This is where we want to paste that code. Right there. Save it. And let's now move this page, New Client, and make that live because we built the form. We didn't build a report. So let's go back to my WinSCP, reload. We'll move both pages. So Manage Clients and New Client. Because now Manage Clients will, again, just say DP. And then if we go to New Clients, I need to log in because if we look at that data page that we just created, it's authenticated. Now the attorney has to log in before they can submit that form. So let's go ahead and log in. I do have one sample user. If you recall in my table, I have John Doe as my attorney. So if you look once again, you'll see jd@attorney.com, and I always use test as my password. So let's go ahead and log in as jd@attorney.com, password test. And as soon as I log in, I should be able to now add a new client. So I will add maybe Raj Singh, company name self, address 123 some street, some city, California, zip code can be something random, email rs@maybe-client.com, and phone number, we'll just make that up and hit submit. All right, now that I added my submission, I added a new client. I should be able to see that client visible inside this report. So let's make that our next data page. We'll come back to our data pages. Also, if you now go into your table of clients, you will be able to see Raj added as the very last client inside the database. Now, the reason why we see additional clients in this table is because these are the original clients that I added in my live demo. What I usually do is I make a copy of my application, but I copy the data as well. So it carries over all the previous sample data I had from my live demo, and it carries it over to a copied application. But this is a brand new client that I just added. So now we're going to build a data page on top of this table. So let's build a brand new data page, and we're going to create a report. Let's go into tabular format, click next, based off of the clients table, and let's call this manage clients. I'll use the same style blue, same localization of English, restrict access, and continue. I would like to build a search form. Let's have the results appear underneath the search form and display the results on the initial load. No need for RLS. You could enable that if you want the attorneys just to be able to see their own clients. But I'm guessing this might be a small law firm where they have maybe 3, 4 to 5 attorneys, and why not be able to see all the clients that are in the database? Because you might, let's say there's a case where you receive a phone call from a client and that attorney is not available, but you would like to be able to add something, a document, or add a make a modification to the case on behalf of some other attorney. So that's why I'm thinking that maybe it's best for them to be able to see all of the cases for each client, or all of the clients in this case. Okay, so what do we want to include in the search form? So let's search based on first and last name and maybe email. Click next. And just for the interest of time, I will just create a space here and add contains for each one of my search fields for comparison type. If you're not familiar with the contains comparison type, it's like a keyword search. If you type in a letter and you click search, it's going to return all of the results that contain that letter, right? So if I'm looking for somebody and I only know the letter A and I click search, it's going to return all the first names that contain letter A. Okay, so now on the results page, let's have the first name. Well, actually, let's have the full name. Company name, address, city, state. We can include all the fields on the results page. Continue. I could enable inline edit and inline insert if I want to be able to add a new client directly from the top, but I created a submission form that allows me to do that. So why don't we keep everything here as read only? Click next. I will need to add an HTML block. I'm going to move this HTML block at the very bottom, and let's call this client details. The reason why I create an HTML block in client details like this is because I need to pass the client ID to the next page in order to be able to see multiple data pages that are associated with that client. So in my live example, you will see clients, and I have a details link. And even when I hover over this details link, if you look in the bottom left-hand corner of my screen, you will see I'm passing client ID, CID equals, and that ID belongs to this client called Jenna Smith. If I click on this link, we pass the ID in the URL, and both of these two data pages that you see here are tied or associated with this client ID. That's how we're able to link multiple data pages to that specific client ID. So if I had multiple other tables that contain data associated with that ID, I can just create data pages from those tables and associate all of those instances to that client ID. So in this case, I'm just going to highlight my text, click on the link icon or button, and then let's just call this client details. That's the name on my web page, .html. And I have to pass the client ID, and in order to pass the client ID, we need to add a question mark to initiate the string. CID is going to stand for client ID. I just go ahead and abbreviate that. Equal sign, and then you're going to insert the client ID that you're going to pass. And click OK. You can see how it became a clickable link. Now, to create this to be a relative path, meaning to access the web page that it's in the same directory, click on the source, and I always like to remove the HTTPS after the quotes, because then it's going to keep the relative path, and I can just click on that link to go to client details. Click next. Not going to make any changes here. let's disable the details page because we are creating a custom details page. I'll hit finish, and now I can go ahead and deploy my data page. And let's go to my notepad. There is manage clients. We are going to paste that here, and let's push this live. Refresh, manage clients. All right, let's take a look. So now we know that we can add a new client, but now we can also manage clients. We have the ability to search. There's my latest entry. I could also reverse this. I can sort this, the most recent entry first. And we can go to client details, but my client details isn't set up yet. So now we need to create a custom details page to be able to update the client's info and be able to see the cases that belong to that client. All right, so let's build our data page. And let's build a direct to details data page based off of the client's table. And we're going to call this update client details. I'll use the blue style, same localization of English, restrict access to my attorney, click next. No need to search because we just want to be able to see the details of that client. We're going to filter our data based off of the client ID, and we just need to receive this value in order to list all the information that belongs to that client. Value is required. Yeah, I just want to make sure people understand. I don't like repeating myself too much because I end up going into too much detail every single live session because we've already covered this so many different times in our previous live streams on how to pass parameters as query string values in the URL. And the reason why we now need to receive this value that we passed previously, because in order to see the details for that client, we have to receive this value. The security thing. Okay, so that's why we say value must be required. Value is required. And now what information do we want to edit for our client? So maybe first name, last name, company name. We should probably be able to edit all of these fields. And instead of them being display only, we definitely want to make them modifiable. So we can just change the form element to text field. This just takes a little bit of time. Of course, even for a state field, it doesn't have to be a text field, right? You can turn this into a dropdown, so it's easier to pull the state. But I don't have a lookup table of states, and I don't want to have to add my custom values. That's going to take too long. So we just, for the interest of time, make it a text field. And the phone number as well. Let's see, on the next page, I don't really want to navigate to the next client directly from the details page. You could if you wanted to. I'm not going to do that. Click next, and then we can just set our confirmation to whatever we want. Your record was successfully updated. That's fine. That's the default text. Click finish, and let's go ahead and deploy this data page now. We'll grab our embed code, copy it, and look for a page called client details. Okay. Now on this page, we're also going to be able to see all the linked cases that belong to that client, but we haven't built that data page yet. Let's push this live so that we can see one step at a time. Email, we want this one. So client details, let's push that live. And now when I reload my page, I'm able to see the details that belong to Raj because this data page now is receiving this ID. Okay, so passing, receiving, okay? So if I go to a completely different client, instead of Raj, let's say we go to Morris Doe, we see the details that belong to Morris Doe. Sorry, I'm just feeling a little queasy right now in my stomach. I apologize. A little lightheaded. That's a first for me. I should have had my breakfast this morning. What? That usually doesn't happen in my live streams. Oh boy. Okay. Let me just get my bearings under me for a second here. All right, I think I'm good. Well, that was interesting. All right, let's continue. So So now if I go to Raj Singh for the details, you will see we have this data page, and now I want to be able to see all the associated cases that belong to this client. All right, so we're gonna need to build a brand new data page. Thank you. Yeah, that's interesting. I've never had this happen to me before. I was feeling a little lightheaded and queasy. It's that feeling you get when you haven't eaten anything yet, which I made a mistake. Typically I have something for breakfast, but I was in a rush this morning. You get that, like, almost, I hate to use it, but you get the like pukey feeling, you know, in your stomach that you are hungry, but it just feels weird. All right, so let's build a data page where we can see all the cases that belong to our client. And I'll just use my tabular report for that. We're gonna hit next off of our cases table. And let's call this view client cases. I'll use the same style blue, same localization English, and restrict access to our attorneys. Click next. Once again, we don't need to have a search form. The reason why is I'm already looking at my client's details. I just want to be able to see all the cases immediately that are associated with this client. So therefore, we're going to filter our data, click next, and once again, we want to filter these cases based on the client ID that we receive. Okay, that's very important, right? Because I passed the client ID and I need to be able to see the cases that are tied to that client ID. So my filtering field needs to be client ID, and it's the same setup in the advanced tab. We receive the value externally and we call that parameter name CID. So everything is tied with that same parameter name. And once again, value is required. We're going to hit next. Now, what information do we want to be able to see for our cases? So why don't we see the case number, case title, description, case type, case status, client ID. We don't need to see client ID. We already know it's Raj. We want to be able to see the attorney that's handling the case, creation date, and last update. So these are okay for me. We're going to hit next. Give me a second. Let me think for a second. I actually do want the client ID here as well. I do. Because if I'm using inline insert from the top, I need to be able to stamp the client's ID into the report if I'm adding a new case for that client. So in my live example, I actually have a client ID. It's a hidden field. You don't see it here, but it's a hidden field because when I add my new case for this client, it's automatically stamping this ID here inside the report. So I'll explain that in just in the next screen here. We're going to hit next. Let's enable inline insert. We can also enable inline edit. That's fine. All right, so case number. That's probably going to be a required field. We need to be able to add that. Case title. That's going to be a required field as well. Case description. Yes, let's make that a required field. Case type. We can turn this into a dropdown and just do a lookup table and select our table that contains all the case types. Case status, why don't we create that to be a dropdown as well? Now, I don't have a lookup table for status, but why don't we call this new, in progress, or completed. These are our different statuses for cases. Attorney ID, I think I have this be a dropdown, and just to select the attorney that's handling the case. Creation date is going to be a timestamp. This is also a timestamp. And for the client ID, we are going to make this a hidden field. And using the external parameter, we are going to receive the CID. And let me think. And this cannot be an editable field. We don't want to be able to edit this field. And I think that's all there is to it. Case number. It's a required field, case title, required description, case type. Now for the case type, if I'm inserting a new case and you just select the lookup table, it's going to default to that very first option in the lookup table. So what you could do is instead of just lookup table, you can do both and you can just say select case type, delete the value, and you could make this field required. So they have to input something for case type when they're adding it. Case status also is going to be a required field. And again, you can add select status, delete the value, and move this up. Make that field required. Attorney ID, that's going to be a required field as well because you want to be able to select the attorney that's handling the case. And once again, do both because you can say select attorney, delete the value, creation date, last updated, and client ID. Click next. Why don't we sort based on most recent case for that client? Click next, and no need for a details page since I'm already displaying everything on the results page. Oh, one thing that I did forget to add to my results page as I'm looking at all the cases that belong to Raj in this case, I need another HTML block here to be able to view documents that belong to that case. So we're going to highlight this text and let's call this view documents.html question mark CID for case ID equals, and then we're going to pass the case ID to the subsequent page and click OK. And again, don't forget, if you're using this button up here to create the link, go into the source and just delete HTTPS to maintain the same relative path as you're clicking through all of your web pages. Next, disable the details page and click finish. And let's go ahead and deploy this now. And let's see what it looks like. So we will go back to my Notepad++, save, and let's push this live. Once again, client details, and let's see. All right, so there are no cases currently associated with Raj, but if I went to a different client, I know that Morris Doe has a case, and we should be able to see that directly underneath, and I can also add a new case from the top. If we go back to our newly added client, which is Raj Doe, case number maybe something random, case title, immigrate, I don't know, let's just call this Raj Singh versus ABC Company. Case description can be, I don't know, let's just do NA. I don't have time to think about that. And this can be maybe corporate law. Select status, new, attorney handling the case John Doe, and we hit add. And now, oh, because I'm using Ajax here. Wait a minute, I'm not able to see the case. Let me look at my table. I apologize. Let me look at my table and see why I am not able to see that case. Client ID. I thought I had received the client ID here and stamped the client ID for Raj Singh. Did we not do that? I thought I did that. Let's go to the data page. Let's go to view client cases. There's the client ID. All right. Client ID, editing. Oh, I made it, then I disabled it. I don't know why I did that. It's already a hidden field, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I did this initially and then I disabled it. It's not going to be editable anyway because it's a hidden field. So I don't know why I did that. That's just a mistake on my end. I made this configuration initially and then I disabled the checkbox, and I don't know why I did that. Because it's a hidden field anyway, so you're not going to be able to see it. So if I click and save changes now and we go back here, I'll just have to recreate this case and I'll delete the other one from the table. Actually, why don't I delete this one already from the table because it's not tied to a client. Let's come back here. Let me just make sure it's saved. All right, reload. Let's just do it one more time here. Raj Singh versus ABC Company. Oh, sorry. Copy that. This will just be a case number. Paste and description, NA. So this will be corporate law. John, let's just say new, and attorney John Doe, and hit add. All right, so there is my case added for Raj Singh. Okay, now we got it. Now, one thing that I also enabled in my application is we also have inline edit, just so you can see there's inline edit enabled. So if I need to make a modification to the case, I could reassign this case to a different attorney. I can change the status, no problem. And we can change the description, title, and the case number. Let's go ahead and now create the form to add a case. So one, I'm adding the case this way directly in my report, and you can leave it like that. You don't really need to build this form, but I decided to create the form anyway, just so you can see two different methods on how we can add the case for our clients. So let's build a form that allows me to add a case, and that's going to be based off of the cases table. So add new case based off of my blue style and localization English, restrict access, click next, and let's include all the fields on our submission form. We're going to hit next. Case number is going to be a required field. Case title is going to be a required field. Description is going to be most likely a required field. Case type, we'll turn this into a drop down, both. So we'll say select case type. That'll be a required field. And you simply just link that to your lookup table. Case status, I don't have a lookup table, so we'll create some custom values. Select status. And then you can say new, you can say in progress, or you can say completed. And also required field. Now for the client ID, you're going to create a dropdown. Lookup table is going to be your client's table, but before we get there, we can say select client, required field, and then you're going to simply link that to your client's table. Make sure for display you use the full name so that you can actually read the client's name, and then we're going to stamp the ID, the actual ID inside the cases table. And then for the attorney ID, what did I do here? Did I do a hidden field? Let me see. Okay, so from this form, we can also assign to a specific attorney. So why don't we go ahead and create this to be a drop-down as well. Both, select attorney, delete the value, make it required, and lookup table is automatically linked to my attorney's table. And once you're done, click on finish. So let's deploy this form. Grab our embed code, go into our Notepad++, new case, and let's push this live. New case. All right, so when I go to new case, now I can, even from this form, I can do the same exact thing from that report that we just created using inline insert from the top. So I can add my case number, case title, description, case type, status, client ID, or the client name, where we have Raj Singh. And I can also assign this to an attorney. So again, two different methods, but they accomplish the same thing. If I go to my client Raj Singh, directly from here, I can add my case if I want to do it that way, or I can go to new case and add that information directly from here. Both methods work. Now we have two more data pages left to build, which are our documents. So if we go to clients, let's say Raj Singh, now I want to be able to see documents that belong to this case, Raj Singh versus ABC company. If I go to that page now, you will see that we don't have anything. So why don't we create the form first this time? Okay, so we'll create the form that allows us to add documents. So data page, submission form, click next. Based off of the documents table, add new document. Oops. We will say blue style, keep everything uniform, English, restrict access to our attorneys, click next. Yeah. So I need all of my fields on the form, click next, and now for the case ID, again, we're going to create this to be a drop-down, both, select the case, delete the value, it's a required field, and then lookup table. You will just simply link to your cases, and I want to be able to read the title of the case. But again, we're going to stamp the ID in the documents table. So with this dropdown, when I'm adding my document, I want to be able to add a document for the case in this dropdown that I'm going to be able to pull down. Document name, required field. Description, probably a text area, required field. Uploaded by. So here's where we get to stamping the attorney's ID. You can just make this field hidden. Authentication field to stamp the attorney's ID. In this case, I only have one attorney, John Doe. So when he adds that document, we're going to be stamping John's ID into the documents table. Upload date, probably a required field. And then the file attachment, if you are adding a file, it's going to be a required field as well. So we click finish. Let's grab our deploy code, copy, and then here in the Notepad++, we have add document, paste, push this live. Add document. All right, so that form should work now. Let me go to add document. All right, so these are my cases, right? Remember we added Raj Smith or Singh versus ABC Company. That's my case. So one way is to add a document directly through this form. So I could say, Raj's pay stubs. I don't know. Maybe there's proof that Raj was submitting his time card, but you know, he was submitting, I don't know, 8 hours per day, but that corporation ABC was only paying him for 7 hours per day or something like that. I don't know. So we'll just say sample text for description for this document. Upload date can be the 14th. And just give me 1 second. I will choose a file here, maybe this image, this thumbnail, and hit submit. All right, your submission was successful. Now when we go to clients here and we go to Raj's details, I can go to view documents, but when I go to view documents, you'll notice we have a DP text here, which means we haven't built that data page yet to be able to see those documents. We only have now the ability to submit documents. So let's build our final data page for today, which is the ability to see those documents. So based off of the documents table, you can say view documents. Style can be blue, localization English, restrict access, click next. No need to search. I just want to be able to see the documents immediately because I know that I'm looking at the documents for that case. So we filter our data and we need to be able to see the documents for that case ID. Remember in my live example here, when I hover over this text, you can see in the bottom left-hand corner something called CID. That's the case ID that I'm passing to the next page. Okay, so that's why on my data page here, we want to be able to filter the documents based on the case ID. Advanced tab, receive value externally. My parameter name was CID. The value is required. Click next. All right, so now what information do we want to display? So let's display the document name, description, uploaded by, uploaded date, and the attachment itself. And here you can also do an inline insert. Okay, it's very important. Not important, but just another way to add those documents for that case. One is to have a separate form where you can add documents if that's the preference for the attorney, or you can go to view documents, see the documents, but also from the very top up here, be able to add new documents directly from there instead of going to a separate submission form. But again, they accomplish the same thing. We have document name. Let me make sure that I also have the case ID included in my results page. The reason why I need the case ID in the results page is if I'm adding my document for that case, again, we need to receive the case ID, make that field hidden in the report. But as we add the document, we're also stamping the case ID that's associated with that document. So that's important on the results page as well. All right, so we have the document name. We want to be able to edit that. It's a required field. Description, required field. Uploaded by. Now uploaded by is going to be a hidden field. Authentication field, and we stamp the attorney's ID. Upload date, probably a required field. Attachment is going to be a required field. And then the case ID, just like before, we make that field hidden but we receive the external parameter CID. Okay, and that's it. We click next. Let's sort based on upload date. I want to be able to see the most recent document. Click next. No need for details page. Click finish. And let's grab our deploy code for view documents. Copy. And let's go into our notepad. And for view documents, we will simply paste and push that live. Let's take a look. View documents. All right. Oh, that is it's a big image. So I'm displaying it as an image, of course, but if I go back to my data page, let's edit that really quickly from the results page. File attachment, I want to display that as a file. Enable custom hyperlink text. Download document. Click finish. Refresh, and now it's going to be much cleaner. Download document. Now, I know it's an image. Usually it might be a Word document or a PDF or something like that. Or maybe it's an image, you know. It could be an image. Maybe an image of a pay stub, you know, to show proof that there's fraud there that was happening. All right, so now if I have a new document for this case, case ID ZVY, whatever, we can just type in the document name, description, upload date, attachment, click add, and it's going to stamp the client's ID. It's a hidden field, but it's stamping the client's ID into this report. When you're adding a document from the form, we can actually select the case ID from here, which is Raj Singh. Finish filling out the rest of the form and hit submit. Okay, because it adds the document for that case. All right, so that's a mini application for a law firm. If they have attorneys that can log in, I actually did receive this request from somebody to build this out. This was the exact requirement. So I decided to bring this into a live stream. So again, if anybody wants to see something they're trying to develop in the live stream, just shoot me an email. Hopefully by now everybody has my email. I always submit my email in the chat window. So I'll submit it one more time. And you'd like to see something in the live stream, how it's done using Caspio, I'll be happy to bring that in as long as it makes sense and we are able to build it out in 1 hour that we get during these live streams. Once again, I appreciate you attending the live stream. Thank you so much for your attendance. Don't forget to like the video if you get a chance. It helps with the algorithm and to get more exposure for the live stream. So thank you so much once again. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. If you have any questions now, I'll keep it open here for a moment. If not, we will go ahead and end the live stream and I'll go get some food. Thank you so much. I appreciate that kind feedback. Thank you. Really, really appreciate it. Eat a cat. Oh, no. My wife would kill me. We have a cat. Good to see many of the familiar names. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I think I'll just have some eggs for breakfast or something. And then a smoothie. All right. That's all the time that we have. So I will go ahead and keep the chat open if there are any last minute questions here. Feedback, comments, things like that. If not, thank you so much. We'll see you in 2 weeks. I'm open to suggestions as always. So if you send me an email, something you'd like to see in the live stream, as long as it's worthwhile for other attendees, we will definitely bring it in. So yeah, thank you so much. We'll see you in 2 weeks and take care.